Hello and welcome. We're with the Acton Cemetery Association. This is our first meeting. I've actually tried since the spring to have people come in and join us. Steve came and joined us probably before summer, early spring,
Yep,
to
April,
help
May.
out. And then Roland joined us afterwards, but they can introduce themselves. My name's Lois Mishu.
Roland Waterhouse.
Steve Perello.
And at this point, I'm going to actually ask Steve to take over and give us his notes, which are actually what election of officers.
Yeah, we'll start. I guess we could start with that. Lois was the only person last year, and so she was committee chair and the whole 9 yards. So I'm sure she wants to divvy up some of the responsibility this year. Right now we just have 3 people, so chair.
What they do in the Warren and Finance right now is chair and co-chair, and the co-chair gets to be secretary, though. You want to be secretary? Or me? It doesn't matter. I haven't decided who's chair yet.
I know, I'm not looking at you.
Or we could delegate that to somebody else. It doesn't matter to me. We haven't made the official officers list yet, so it's your call.
All right,
You
well,
guys' call.
so you want to stay chair though, right?
It doesn't matter to me. We can co it like we have
Motion
been.
that we elect Lois Mishu as chair of the
I
cemetery committee.
second the motion.
It's been motion. It's been made. The motion has been made and seconded. Do I have a show of hands? And approved. So I guess I'm stuck again for the moment. All right, but I am going to turn this over to Steve because actually he's been a field person and been out doing this list that he's given us for the agenda items. He'd be the one to be actually touching base with them, and he can explain as we go along, and as we have questions, we can ask them. So
Okay.
you're on the floor.
Do you want to be co-chair? Does
Make a motion to elect Steve as the co-chair
I
of the
second
cemetery
motion.
committee.
I second the motion. Those in favor? Those opposed?
all right.
All right, I know you just
Now it's
love the
done.
positions. You
Now we
happy
can
now,
move
Roland?
on.
You're out of
Now
everything.
we can move on. We've cleared parliamentary
All right.
procedures.
All right, and
Moving
I'm
on.
still trying to push it over to Steve.
All right, yeah, so moving on, the second item on my agenda, I guess, is just, we should come up with a mission statement. What's our purpose? Why are we here? We don't need to have something written down today, a couple lines or whatever. We could think about it and then come back, next meeting, and this is what we are, what we stand for, what we're doing.
I like that thought. That's what
All right.
we've always said on other committees, that we should all have a purpose.
Should know what we're doing.
Exactly.
Some of the things on the agenda here are just stuff that I've done over the summer, and just want to expand on it. Some of the things are pretty new. I do have a list of volunteers, and I know Lois has some other volunteers that I really haven't talked to just yet. And then what kind of work do they want to do? Do they want to be like Tracy, where she's in the woods chopping stuff down? We have caretakers, so each cemetery should have a caretaker, somebody who normally maintains that cemetery, cutting the grass, raking, or whatever it might be. And then we have people that can, maybe can't do the physical hard work, or they can do some research on who might have been buried there, deeds, who might have lived there, that kind of stuff. So there's different levels of volunteers we can look at. So as we get this list of people, we can break down what they want to do, what we should have them do, I guess. So
Any questions at this point, Roland, or
No.
Missy?
Everything sounds very,
Okay.
very well thought out.
thank you. I have expanded on Lois's Acton Cemetery property owners. This information is coming off of the Acton deeds map, right?
I think it's off in Kenny Paul's map, the map that with the overlays and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
so
not the
it's-
deeds. It's actually
Okay.
well.
But it shows the
overlay.
property lines, who owns what property, and you can overlay it with Google Maps and stuff like that. So we've gotten who the owner is for a lot of these places. Some of these cemeteries I haven't been to yet, so I don't know where they are or who the property owner might be. Some of the property is in limbo, might be for sale, and then there's some cemeteries that they're listed on the property map, but there is no property owner.
Right.
listed. So there's still some information we got to figure out. And what I did with this, I took Lois's map, property owner list, and just went crazy on it, adding GPS locations, caretakers if we have any, any kind of contact information other than an address, either phone number, email, for a lot of these. After I printed this off today, I still went back in and added a lot more information, so this is not the latest version. As I get it together, I could email it to you guys.
That's
So,
fine.
and I don't mind sharing information with the general public, but something like this maybe should just stay with us. You know, a lot of this contact information, people might not want anybody to know, so. I don't have an overall number of cemeteries that are in Acton. I've got a lot of unknowns there, and some that are rumored to be in town at certain locations. And the last time I counted was like 78 cemeteries, but I've added more to that. So it's got to be, you know, it's 85 or so, maybe
I was
closer.
going to say, we were just shy of 90, I think, the last time that Wes, myself, Hannah, and the other group went out and looked around. And they were really good about it. And of course, Wes wrote down everything, so he would have probably, if not a full list, or darn close to it.
Okay. And then, I mean, like I said before, there's some cemeteries that I haven't physically been to yet. And this sort of,
Hopefully, you're going to fix it this
yeah, so that goes into the next
fall.
bullet point is visiting, at least the ones that we don't know where they are. I know you've shown me some earlier this summer, and I showed you some, and I don't know how well-versed you are, Roland, on where they are.
Not a lot of them.
This could take a few days, just because there's so many.
I would anticipate it would definitely take more than just a couple of days. It probably would take a good week.
Yeah.
Now, you guys. We used to
No,
flag them
it's-
and be out there in 2 days and done.
Well,
Come
you
on.
have to know where they are.
We know where
Don't
it goes
start
so well.
throwing things.
And one thing that I tried to work on this summer as I was working in the cemeteries was priority of work.
Yeah.
There's some that are on the road that look nice, or some in somebody's field that look nice or don't look nice. There's some in the woods that you couldn't tell that anything's there, and there's some on the road that you know, you just drive by. I've been trying to hit as many as I can just to start something, at least get some of the major stuff cleared out. We've had 2 major projects, well, 3 now. Brackett Cemetery on Orchard Road that Tracy and Jay and some others really worked their butt off on. Watson Cemetery, where we had the ceremony earlier this summer. We just worked on the Remick Cemetery on San Page, and we have an unknown on Goose Pond Road that we're going to work on next Saturday, and that should be night and day after we're done with it.
Yeah, and that's the one on Goose Pond Road, right?
Correct. But then you got all these cemeteries with stones down that still don't look very good. So where should we focus our attention? So we should talk about, after our site surveys and stuff like that, figure out where we should focus our resources, I guess.
Yeah, priorities. And like we've said before, we don't know if we need to start the Revolutionary War and work it forward, or just as we go along with. This is one of those things we'll just have to discuss. And a lot of it too boils down to cost. I mean, it all depends upon
You're
it
going to have to
also.
speak louder, dear.
Sorry, it all depends upon cost too, hon. When we get farther out, obviously we're going to have to, before too long, we'll have to think about a warrant that goes on the finance department so that they can look at it and discuss that. So we're going to have to come up with some figures also
Okay.
once we do our walking.
Once we do the sidewalks.
Right.
And
Uh,
find out where things are and find out what things are needed, and then prioritize as far as, okay, which do we want to tackle first, as far as this cemetery needs this, this, and this. This cemetery needs this, this, and this. Okay, well, this one's worse than this one is. Let's start with this one. Now, what do we want to do first with this cemetery?
Right.
Okay? If it's, stone work, resetting stones, cleaning, it all depends, once we look at everything, then we can look at and tell what we need to do, what we would like to do eventually, and then we can come up with, well, it's going to cost this amount of money here. I mean, just fixing a stone is an expensive
Is it expense on its
task.
own? Yeah,
So-
and that's why we have to think about what's priority, which one we want to do
Exactly.
priority.
So-
Yeah.
Back to you.
All right, thank you. I've always been sort of confused on this because I did a lot of work in Shapley for the last dozen years. And I know we have perpetual care funds over there and trust funds, and you guys have them here, we have them here as well. But I've never understood exactly how the money is used. Like, so, like,
The only thing I can give you for an example on that, Steve, is where we do it in Maple Grove, state standard says that 70% of it has to be, we can use, but 30% of it has to be put away for perpetual care for in the future. So later on, so it's supposed to be building interest, and interest
Right.
isn't happening. In town, they have about 6 trusts they have now that people have left them in the past, with the possibility of a few more coming. They may or may not have funds, I'm not sure. But it's the same way with them. They can't give you the whole funding, but they
Yeah.
can give you a percentage of the funding.
so,
When they max out, it's done until the next
and I know
time.
Ron Rivard over in Shapley has used some money for like fixing a stone wall or,
Right.
or things like that.
And I think that's what we actually asked for on town floor that's actually raised is that money, that we can actually use it at will. It's the 6 trusts that we have to be careful how we use it when, like over the summer, when you go to the different ones and do the work. When you list it, they actually say, you see Michelle gives you, how much off in each cemetery, and I think we have it in our list, that she gives you off so much, like when you go to Hurd Cemetery over there on Goose Pond Road, she has so much money and they can only use a third of that at a time, so that's how that's taken out. Once she's at max, technically we're supposed to stop working, but in our hearts of hearts, I think we push on. But that's the best example I can say. State actually mandates that. It's not so much the town as it is the state.
Okay. And I know I've seen in the town reports, the yearly reports, that they list how much is in each fund.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I don't know how much is available for use.
You
Not
can,
that I want to go out and blow, all,
you
whatever
can
percentage
trust
we
that
can.
there's a third of each.
Third.
To be on the safe side. Now that could, obviously once you've used a third of $800, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the money allocated at the town meeting
Right.
for the cemetery, budget, we can burn all of that,
Yeah, it can all be used.
okay? What did we allocate?
I want to say 2,700 last year.
27 last
Because
year, so.
last year it was only me, myself, and I, and
You
I didn't
don't
want
take
to.
much.
I didn't want to take much. Well, the thing is, I didn't want to take a lot because at that time we weren't using it the way it should be used. This year, where Steve has got a lot of volunteers, and he's been doing a lot of the work himself.
And now something is actually happening.
It's actually going on.
So
Exactly.
maybe next year we won't just ask for 27, maybe we'll ask for 54.
That'll work. I'll be
We
happy.
will get to that at the bottom.
Move on.
Meeting schedule, I know, it is the last Thursday of the month good, except for obviously November, but, at this time, is that
That's
good for
totally up to
everybody?
you guys. I have no issue with it. The only time it will change is if the town is being used, like we have a special town meeting coming up, stuff like that. Other than that, I don't see an issue with that.
And-
Flexibility.
Flexibility some way,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you have no issue with it. That's totally
And
up to
it,
you.
every month, you want to do it quarterly,
I would say every month.
okay,
Okay, just because this is just beginning. We want to keep it going. We don't want it to fall through the cracks. We don't want it, we don't want to start and then what happened? Oh, well, he got disinterested and she moved out of town and nobody else volunteered. That's probably the hardest thing is, you get somebody that might want to do something, but they're not really sure, and they test the waters once or twice. Nah, that's not really for me. Okay, or something happens, and hey, I just can't make it.
yeah,
Like I have a invalid father who lives with me. I take care of him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are certain times that are not the best times as far as me having to go somewhere, because I have to make sure that somebody is at home to take care of him. He's wheelchair bound. He had a stroke 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, he broke his hip.
Do you guys have a special time, or?
You know how I am.
Oh, I know.
I'm very, very flexible. You know, as long as you give me notice as to what's going on, you know, unless I can't, you know, come up somewhere, you know, with coverage, then, you know, then I would have to say, I can't make that one, can we change it? Or, you know, I'm gonna have to miss that one,
Okay.
okay? And I would rather, being as we are such a small committee, I'd rather not miss anything.
Yeah, I hear you. That's why I sent a lot of stuff out to you. That's why when I met up with you, I gave you the book that I had handy at
I've
the
already
time.
been through it.
Good boy. You did better than I did. But no, if that works for you guys, that's
But no,
fine.
you know, I mean-
I just want to make sure time and schedule. Of course, if it's the only thing you guys have to remember, last year and the year before, this is how it works. Snow days, bad travel. Jen usually doesn't open if there's no school. You know, we won't have it if the snow's flying east and we ain't gonna fight to get here. It's not, we'll plan it like maybe the following week after, or just skip that month and go to the next one. It really depends how you guys feel. I just wanna let you know because winter's rolling.
Yes, we know.
All right. This is just something I was thinking about, because I have a little notepad in my pocket here that I carry with me all the time, and I can't tell you how many times I wrote my name and number and emailed and gave it to someone I met in town.
I hear you.
I don't know if we can, you know, I know there's a
There's Vistaprint. You're trying to
Vistaprint.
say the little cards.
Yeah.
You can get like
I don't,
almost
I don't need
100
1,000
of
of
them.
them, but, or I could,
They're cheap.
They are cheap.
They are
The
very
Vistaprint is really
inexpensive.
cheap.
okay. And I wanted to wait too, in case I got some kind of title, I could put that on there. So,
And,
Yeah.
and certainly not a bad idea.
No.
Not a bad idea at all.
No.
I like the next topic.
yes, so we have some property owners take care of cemeteries. We have people that are neighbors that take care of them. We have concerned citizens, you know, interested people in town that take care of some. But maybe we could recruit this or advertise it for an adopt a cemetery. Could be, you know, a Boy Scout, Girl Scout troop, brownies, 4-H club, you know, the third grade down at the school, or some.
I would really love to see any of the schools interested, to be honest.
That
would
or
give them
high
some-
school students looking
Yeah, high school
for
students.
community
Yes.
service
Yep, I was gonna bring.
time.
Yep.
You know?
We had a cleanup at the Remick Cemetery the other day, and one of the ladies that was there is from the DAR. She lives in Sanford, and they need volunteer hours. So that worked out very well for her, and she's gonna give us some more hours too. So, you know, maybe we could get a hold of the DAR. You know, and she came from Sanford, but she was very interested in, you know, working up here, because they might not have something like that down there. So we can.
You know, it could be a project available for a group.
Yeah. Yeah, or an Eagle Scout.
We,
project.
if I'm not mistaken, because I also attend every damn Board of Selectmen meeting. I miss very few. And I believe that we brought that Adopt a Cemetery
Yes, we did. Back when I
idea
first started.
back, you know, months and months ago. And we can start pinging again on that. Because every time you bring it forward, you know, you put it in somebody's eye. You know, you know, you could possibly get
The town of
interest.
The town of Milton, New Hampshire, actually does adopt a cemetery program.
It's a good idea.
If you're interested in seeing how they lay it out, they have a website. All it is town of Milton, New Hampshire, and blah 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 blah. And go to their site, and you hit like here, you'll hit the different branches where you want to go, and the cemetery has their own line. You can see all their meetings, and you can see what they've done in their laws that they have, because they have public and private cemeteries over there, and they're trying to work it out. And they're like everybody else, they struggle. They actually only have a 5-member board, I think. It's tough. It's not an easy job. One of them's been doing it for almost 60 years, so.
Jeez. And the final item on my agenda here is we need to work on the budget for next year. Now, when is that due to the powers that be?
We have to have it by springtime, don't we?
I'm not sure when budget submissions are required. However, we can certainly find out. That's not a problem at all. Both of us aren't bashful about asking questions.
Yeah, my question's gonna be in trouble.
All right, so for next meeting, you want to have,
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
definitely
And
get
it
that.
really wouldn't be a bad idea to, even if it's months on out, to get something started somewhere, because.
Exactly.
at
Well,
least we
you know, once we've done a site walk,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm presuming that this is going to be a fairly encompassing little ride for us all.
It will be we gotta go up your way, we'll go that way, so it's be closer to
doesn't-
home.
It doesn't, I know where cemeteries are up my way.
There you go, because that's
Okay.
where we're heading.
But once we've done the site, you know, walks, and we have a better idea of what condition, like, you know, the Langley Cemetery, you know, the one that's back in the woods, right on the corner, right across the street from the old couple that used to deliver newspapers.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know about that
The only one I'm
cemetery.
having problems with, and I told him I had some issues, is the one down, you remember where Catherine Harding used to live? Behind her house, you gotta kind of take the long way around Georgia, I call it, it's behind her house is a cemetery. It's the one that I told him we're gonna have problems finding. I know Wes and Hannah can probably get there in a
oh,
heartbeat.
is that the Perkins?
I'm not sure if it's Perkins or not. I can't remember the name of it, to be honest. But that's the one that that's why I'm waiting for kind of it to be fall, so we can actually see more clearly. We can actually see the stones, because the stones were standing last I knew, and it wasn't. It looked fairly decent. It was just getting out there. It was just taking the long way to get out there. So that's
But,
about
you
the
know,
only
once-
one I know of that I can't get
Once
to.
we do a site, you know, survey of hopefully a majority of what we're looking at. In other words, I don't want to just look at this cemetery, this cemetery, this cemetery. I
Oh,
want to take
no.
a nice tour, if you will.
Oh, you
okay?
can definitely get one of
And,
them.
you know, then we can have a better idea of, okay, what do we want to ask for as far as
Right.
money? You know, because
So-
once we identify what we're looking at, then we can have some idea of what we might need to spend.
Right, right.
Now, my next question is, it'd probably be best if we did them on Saturdays. What time and where what time and when do you guys
We
want to
just need
start?
to coordinate that, that's all.
Pardon me?
I said, we just need to coordinate that.
Oh, I know, I'm just.
Here we are at a meeting,
This
let's
is
talk
what I'm
about
asking
it.
you. That's what I'm asking. What do you guys think?
Saturdays should be good for me.
I don't see a problem with Saturday.
Okay.
If there is, I certainly will let you know. I'm,
Not shy.
huh?
Not shy.
Not at all.
Okay. Do you want to meet now? If we're going to start at his end of town, instead of having him come all the way down here, we could meet up at one
I'm
of the.
closer to him than
Yeah,
here, so.
than here. So,
Shooting the back way?
Yeah, I
yeah.
live in North Shapley, so go up
Shady Nook.
Would you like to actually meet where, the one that I was telling you that he's buried outside the cemetery there?
Oh, Reed?
Yeah, would you like to meet at the Reed Cemetery?
Yeah, the owner might be there that day, and his little driveway is pretty tight.
Or do you want to go up and meet on Man Road? I don't care either way. Or do you want to we can go up by David Langley's.
Yeah, if we can park in front of the Langley Burbank.
David Langley, okay.
Park right on Birchwood Road. if
Yeah, I
you
know,
want.
that's-
I don't give a damn.
Okay.
It's a private road, but I don't care.
We'll meet up by David Langley's. Now, what day would you like to do this?
Can we do the 14th of October?
Did you want to take time and look at your calendar first, hon? This is,
I'm trying to remember.
oh, I can't,
Wife is leaving town.
14th isn't going to work for me. I'm going to be out of town. Sorry, honey. Next weekend? After that?
After the 14th?
No, because we have the Acton Shapley Historical Society is presenting a 47 Fire 70th anniversary event, which we were all invited to.
Okay, what about the following one? I mean, we have time until
Yeah.
snow flies, so.
Yeah. The 28th sounds okay. It's National Chocolate Day, apparently. So do that.
Works.
So you
As
want to
far
meet?
as I know, the 28th is fine.
Okay,
Alright.
it's far enough out. We'll probably meet the Thursday before that.
Oh,
so
you and I
can
will meet
confine-
several times.
But we'll probably have a meeting the Thursday before that. I think that will be the
yeah.
last Thursday, right?
Yeah, the 27th,
27th?
Not a problem.
or excuse me, the 26th of the Thursday, yeah.
26th is the last Thursday, right?
Yes.
So we'll probably have a meeting at that point before then, and then you guys can really, then we can actually really confirm at that point. That's far enough out, we ought to be able to confirm or deny.
Now, I know you're swamped with taking care of your dad and all, but are you available any afternoons?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
'Cause I get out,
I can do it afternoons too.
yeah, I mean, we can knock out a lot of easy ones.
The only problems that I have are Mondays are not a good day. No Mondays. Tuesday, no problem. Thursdays, no problem. Friday, probably from noon on's no problem. And Wednesdays from noon on is no problem. So my only real bad day is a Monday.
Okay.
Which we don't have to do that. We can skip
Well,
that. No,
I have nobody to
because at
cover.
this point, you're the only one that actually works.
Oh, like a
Plus-
job?
Yeah, job.
Oh, I'd like to change that, but,
Us two don't have a job.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
other obligations, but we don't have a job.
I retired twice.
yeah, I only
And
retired
yes, you
once.
remember, time's changing, so
Yeah, when does,
probably the first week in
oh,
October.
I could get to Acton 4:15 or so, yeah, once the time changes, that's probably gonna be dark, right?
It doesn't take long once the time does change.
So,
But we can modify things as required.
yeah, so maybe we can start, next Tuesday? Maybe we can meet up, maybe up your way and hit some of the ones that are right on the road, or,
Absolutely, that's not a problem.
so that is, make sure I don't have a soccer game to go to.
The only thing is Tuesdays, selectmen's meetings start at 5 o'clock.
That's right.
Okay, so,
So if we were going to do something on a Tuesday, depends upon the time. I don't have a problem, but I would like to maintain my attendance.
you wanna do the Thursday, the 12th?
Sure.
All right, so let's do 12 October, meet at Langley.
Yeah, we might as well
Spring.
still meet at Langley's. It's just as easy.
Okay, so
He-
that'll probably be about 4:30 for me.
4:30ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Because all he's going to do is then pull out of his driveway and look at us funny.
Okay. And then actually, because all those ones up there, most of the ones up there on Langley's property and stuff, I haven't been to yet.
He's
so.
got, you got the one that's right beside the road. There's another one
Out back of it.
that is back,
Probably 500 feet, if that.
yeah, and then there's another one.
There's another one down the road. Two actually more down the road.
He actually has three on his property.
Yeah, but I think they're combined. I think that one
Well,
out
that may
back
be,
is combined.
that may be. I don't know. I can always pick Dave's brain.
And he'll love it. Dave
I know.
will love it.
So going back to the budget, something to think about when we do our site surveys, we can figure out how many flags we need to buy and how many flag holders.
Right.
We should,
We want to try and get that totaled and know what we're going to need far enough in advance so that we're not sitting here prior to
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day going, hey,
And we could
did
do-
you order the flags? No, I thought she did. No.
No.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Well, my thing with flags and stuff, we actually have flag waivers. It's a little bit more, the cost is a little bit better for us. I'm sorry that it's not so local, but it only takes a matter, it's in with what, 3 days?
Well, if we can, if we can determine how many we need,
Yeah. Well, as a rule, every year they bought at least one, if not two gross, which is 244
144.
flags. Yeah, but it'd be 288 flags.
88, yeah.
And
Sharp
Lois and I
math
were
person.
talking in Shapley, we add extra staples because after
Right.
the winter, they're all
Yeah,
at
they
half
kind of-
mast. So over the winter, we could staple them up and
Yeah.
do
And
that.
that you could do a workshop over the winter and get those stapled up and get them taken care of.
Exactly.
The other thing is that it would be holders. Steve was going around looking at different cemeteries, including Maple Grove, about the holders. What we're finding, and I find also, but I always have a knife on me, is that as the weather gets bad, it swells the wood in the holders. He would like to have permission to take some of the holders home if necessary and slot them so when it
I could
swells.
even do them out there. I just
Yeah, so when it swells, that the wood doesn't get stuck in the holder itself.
Yeah,
But I
then you
thought that
can't
was a
use
great
that.
idea because other than that, I have a jackknife usually. I mean, I cut it out. I do.
You're a dangerous woman.
I'm sorry. But that's just the way it is.
Tracy did some research earlier in the summer, well, not too long ago, about ground cover plants, the creeping myrtle and all that other stuff. Yeah, phlox and
Would
it's
you like to tell us about it or here? Come right over here, honey.
Phlox is lovely. Phlox really looks nice, but phlox only lasts a certain amount of time.
the flowers or the actual.
Well, phlox is perpetual, I believe,
Yes.
but they tend to
Why don't we take a minute and introduce her?
absolutely go.
Okay. My name is Tracy Lavasser. I live in Shapley, but I've been helping Steve for these past couple months working outdoors on the cemeteries. And since we've been working on Brackett Cemetery, I noticed that there is no ground cover at all there. Once you clean up the years and years of debris, you're left with just a hard packed ground, which is fine. It doesn't have to be mowed or weed whacked or anything, but it would probably be a little more cosmetically more pleasing if it had some sort of ground cover. It also would protect it against erosion and other things. So 2 of the plants that I suggested, one was creeping phlox and the other is creeping myrtle, which is also called vinca. It's a ground cover, very invasive. It will spread like wildfire. That is an evergreen and it does bloom, but you're using it more for the ground cover than for the pretty color. Phlox is a perennial. It does come back year after year. It is evergreen as far as throughout the season. I think it gets brown during
It does brown. It
winter.
does tend to brown out.
But they both of these plants stay very low to the ground, so there's no mowing involved, which is good. So you don't have to do weed whacking or mowing or anything. And I suggested possibly using those in the future after you've completed a cemetery.
So like we have the Watson Cemetery, which is 25 by 25 on the inside. And I think some of the prices that I saw that Tracy showed me was like $10 for 50 plants
Yeah.
or plugs or whatever it is. So I mean, we put them in there and it spreads out and you don't have to get in there and have to weed whack or mow or whatever it might be. And a lot of some of these cemeteries are in the shade too, so it really wouldn't get grass growing. I was at one of the Ricker cemeteries and it's completely surrounded by trees and whatnot, and I showed Tracy a picture and it's
Full of
this
vinca.
green lush carpet. And just
Prefer the shade, phlox prefer the sun,
Sun,
so
yes.
it depends on where,
Location.
what your cemetery is exposed to. And I mean, your cemeteries start off all grown in anyway. Once you start cutting down the trees, then you'll have more sunlight there. So natural grass will start growing, but if you don't want to have to keep maintaining it, then you'll probably want some sort of carefree ground cover.
and that'll keep down on the maintenance, which is always the hard part of the cemeteries is maintaining it. You can clean it up in a weekend, but if you don't come back and take care of it, it's going to not look well very shortly. So yeah, if we could, and so yeah, all this ground cover is relatively cheap. But we could figure out what we want to buy, how much we need to get, and come up with that kind of cost for next year's budgets.
And where we could put it too. Because I mean, if you're looking at a cemetery that primarily has shade all the time, and gets very, very little sunlight, we certainly don't want to, throw a bunch of phlox in there because, it's not going, it's just not going to, be as beneficial as the other one. And, you know, so,
Okay.
you know, once we decide,
Before I
you know.
seal their mic, do you have anything else you had to pass her?
No.
Are you interested in joining this committee,
Well,
or are you still on the
seems like
fence?
something that I could do. I talked about this with Jay, who is my other half, and he's interested as well, but he's more interested in the physical outdoor part more than sitting in, you know, a meeting.
Well, I don't think that we're gonna spend a whole lot of time meetings.
Right, right.
I think
That's
we're
good.
gonna spend a
That's
whole
fine with
lot of
me.
time
Yeah.
outside.
meetings. I'm missing a meeting tonight because of this meeting.
I guess officially I want to thank Jay, thank Tracy and Jay, just,
Absolutely.
they have been workhorses. And Wayne Mishu, who wasn't able to be here tonight, I guess. I've brought them in, asked them really nicely, and they've taken off as far as getting work done, and it's blown me away.
Saying
So,
Wayne was a rock star. We saw him take down those trees, and this man is a rock star.
yeah, he's a little
We
younger
are
than
not
us.
worthy of this man. He was taking those down like this, boom, boom, boom,
So,
like he'd been doing this all his life.
That's another thing we can discuss also.
So you done?
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm done with you, thank you.
Thank you. No, because I also want to thank you a lot, Steve, because you did a lot over the summer, and you did a lot organizing these people to make sure things got done. I mean, we haven't had this much organization in probably 12 or 15 years. I mean, it's hard when there's only one person or two people and somebody, and I know where a lot of them are, but I don't know how to take care of every one of them, and that's why in the spring I was kind of going nuts. All I could do is try to say I could help. I couldn't do anything more than that.
It's the tough part for us now is or one of the things is going to find people to help out, because there's
But I actually like her idea, because the ones that that would save a lot of maintenance if we could actually just put them in and replace them as needed or as necessary, depending on
Well,
the cost.
The not the phlox, the other one,
Yeah.
that is extremely aggressive. And, you know,
Yeah. That might be food for thought.
yeah,
it's got the
that'll walk right, that'll walk right out the gate.
I'd probably like it, but then we were talking about Steve and I were talking about signs.
signs. Yes, I did look up. I know someone 20 years ago came through and made these little white signs.
Aunt Olive had them made.
What's that?
Aunt Olive had them made.
Okay. There's still a couple around, but most of them look like you saw. Did you see one? Yeah. Yeah, the lower bracket's
Kind
still.
of beat up and hardly legible.
Yeah. We were thinking about signs. I know through the Historical Society, we put some of those big green metal signs up with white lettering on some of the sites in our towns. But Lois was mentioning like getting wood signs made by maybe the Maple Stone kids. Keith Davis is, I looked up on the website yesterday, he's still, I guess, in charge of it, so maybe we could reach out to them.
Because I know a few years back, Keith said just bring in a list and he'd try to see what he could do. I don't know. He said it was a project for the kids, so I'd have to recheck on that again, or you could at that point.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if we want to go wood, or if we look at Dasco. Dasco has metal, right?
Yes,
So we might want to go metal only because that way we're not repeating ourselves. So,
I'd like-
Metal is going to be more expensive than a wooden sign.
right.
Metal will hold up longer than a wooden sign. However, metal has some disadvantages. You know, depending upon what kind of metal, you have corrosion, you have rust. You're going to get fading on a metal sign, especially if it's exposed to, direct sunlight, etc. So,
one of the ones, I mean, if you guys get a chance, right in front of the town pound, we had one put up there 3 years ago maybe. So I don't know what company we had make them.
I think Dick Neal had it done, to be honest.
Yeah,
And I don't remember if he was selectman at the time or a part of the historical.
Historical Society.
Yeah.
something to check into.
And then the last thing on my agenda is there's a lot of gravestones that are down on the ground or buried or broken. Some of the stuff we can fix relatively quickly, relatively cheaply. Others take some time, and then there's some that just, they need a lot more work. And what mainly Ron has done in Shapley is, there's a down stone in a veteran cemetery, it's not down anymore. And I don't know how he's gotten them all done. I think it's mainly been him. I don't know if he's hired anybody or anything like that. But if we could find somebody that maybe can do this, hey, you know, spend a week in Acton, fix as many stones as he could.
Be nice.
Or, what's that? Yeah, so, I mean, Jay's got some kind of contraption, a lift or whatever, that can lift up some of these big marble stones, because otherwise you need 2 or 3 people and wood and braces and whatnot. Well, yeah, if we could do it internally in-house, it would take long. It might take longer, but if we have some people that, you know, that's what they focus in on during the cleanups or whatever, you know, they, you know, have at it. So
He's willing to take one of the bracket stones and
yeah,
fix it.
it's a lot of them that, like, we've put a couple of stones up at Brackett that were just slate, so they go in the ground. But then there's others that have a granite base. Then there's 2 granite bases, you know, it's like, and pins. So, you know, we just we got to figure out what we got to do and what it will take to get it done. So
Since she keeps talking, we're gonna give her back the mic.
have a seat right here.
I know, it's gonna
come
we're
get
gonna
close,
warm chair
damn.
for you right there.
Warming up. It's very hot in here.
That's all I have on my list here. But what else can you think of?
Well, the other thing I was going to think of is that we were talking about getting a regular GPS just to go out and take care of that. Actually, I gave Roland the information on that a while ago. And I don't know if he had time to really get on this or
I have looked
deal with it.
at what you were given by Jen, which is basically 3 or 4 different GPS units that Staples sold. You can buy a GPS, you know, Best Buy, you know, Cabela's, wherever. It depends upon what you want. Okay. Now, as far as how much money do you want to spend, you know, they run anywhere from $1.30 on up. Like I said, depends upon what you want. If you want a small hand-held unit, and when I say small, they're small. Okay, people like me, blind, even with my glasses, I'm not going to be able to use that at all. Okay, as far as GPS goes, I'm pretty ignorant as far as GPS goes.
I am also. The only one that knows it's good at that is Steve.
And I'll be happy to learn from a good teacher. However,
Me too.
again, you know, we have to decide what we would like to purchase.
Can you next meeting? Can you come up with, you know?
I'll put together a broader spectrum of what is available. I mean, you know, you got TomToms. That's a GPS unit. You got Magellan puts out a bunch of GPS units. Again, like I said, you can go to Cabela's and buy a handheld GPS unit that, you know, a lot of hunters use, etc. It all depends on what we want and what do we want this GPS unit to be able to do for us. I am assuming that we want to be able to take this GPS unit, go to a particular location, mark that as a
Waypoint or
whatever,
Yeah.
okay? And at some point in time, I'm assuming that once we have gone around different, you know, obviously it stores the information. Once we've gone around all these different locations and whatnot, I would like to think that we're going to be able to take that information off from that GPS
print it out.
and put it on Kenny's overlay
I think Kenny, we're supposed to get an overlay this fall. That's their goal.
so that we can say,
So-
here it is, folks. This is what we have. All right, big, you know.
Because my biggest thing is we've had this discussion before. I want them to be found before they sell the property, before they compromise the property. I mean, I know of 2 that the cemeteries are no longer there, only because they're not. And unfortunately, I don't want that to happen in the future, even tomorrow or next year. And that's kind of was one of my goals. The other thing that was a goal, because certain ones have more than one cemetery, we want to be able to take and probably,
You want to be able to pinpoint each location.
exactly, but
okay?
we also want to pinpoint each, probably each stone after that. Because because my biggest thing is if they fall, if we haven't got them up and they're down, we got to put them up.
Right.
And if once they're there, I'd like to see that I'd like to know they're staying there.
Eventually, it would be nice to be able to say, okay, in the Brackett Cemetery located down here, we have X, Y, Z. Those 3 are Civil War individuals. We have this. These are World War II individuals. We have this. It'd be nice to identify.
Exactly.
As far as veterans go. Okay. Now, I don't know how much further we want to get into it,
A lot of it
that
depends
respect,
upon,
yeah. Well, it
we're
depends
at the will
upon
of the town too,
how much
so-
time you have.
Well, that's it. I can utilize your time for 20 years if you want. Steve probably could too.
Anyway, so basically the GPS is, I'll put together, a broader spectrum of information with more selection.
Okay.
And then, we can all look at it and say, this one's got a nice 4x6 screen, it's not too big, it would fit in your back pocket, et cetera, because I assume that you want to be able to carry it out to the location, not just, I want to go to these coordinates and this road is as far as I can get.
So, it seems like there was something else I was supposed to say, but I forgot.
Can't hear you.
I said, it seems like there was something else I was supposed to say, but I forgot.
Thank you.
Heard now? Anything else you think we need to touch base on?
Can I get your
You certainly-
email, phone number and all
You
that?
certainly can.
I'll give you a business card later.
You need a card.
Here, I'll put it on the back. So that you'll,
Did you talk about business cards?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I guess I missed that one.
You were so nervous about the mic. Yes, we said Vistaprint actually does
Yes,
them
I
within
bought some
reason.
for my kennel club this spring.
Yes, because he was kind of wondering about that.
Make sure that the font is big because I didn't make the font big
I'm going to
enough.
give you my whole address.
Hard to see.
In his case, we need more. We need it
Yeah,
here.
the easy reader business card.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say. And on this, Roland, this paperwork that he gave out, the red is where your veterans are.
I
At
can
this
read
point.
that.
Okay.
I have trouble seeing.
I
but
know.
Guess
That's why I
what?
said that.
I'm not colorblind. Just pulling
You
your leg.
gotta forgive us. We're on another board together, and it can be quite interesting also. But and we're looking for help. We still have room for 3 more. We have room all the time for extras, but I think they're looking for at least 3 more to be on the board. I told them I was grateful for what I had. It is what it is. So if anybody out there is interested, if somebody wants to help, contact us, please. If you can't get a hold of any of us, call Jen
Hey,
at Town Hall.
I
Let her
print
know
everything. I
that,
very, very seldom
you're
write.
willing to help, or you
Uh,
want in, or you
The
want to know more about
important
it.
Item, HTO,
Board member, I can
obviously it's fairly explanatory.
the
That is
hours
an O, not a 0.
from
Okay.
Okay,
5
and
to 6. I can
I don't
write
think
to
it's
my
case
other meeting
sensitive.
from here afterwards.
if it, I don't think it's case sensitive at all.
You see how that works, and I'll make
Okay.
it right.
Sounds good.
And hopefully my computer stays up.
Oh, you got your computer back?
My wife had to completely redo. They had to do a restore back to day one.
All right, any more questions? Any more business, new or old?
None that I can think of.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I hear a motion that's first and second, and we're done. Have a good day.